Okay, it's day 105. This is part one. And this is sort of a review while we're waiting for the memo later today. That I wanted to make a point about actually going out and doing new things and reporting on new things rather than just repeating the same story over and over. It seems like not only the alternative media repeats one story and then the mainstream media repeats the Adam Schiff version, and then the Devin Nunes version gets repeated by the alternative media. Um, what we need to do is keep reporting about other things around the obstacle while we're waiting for the door to open up. And yesterday I ended up with a version called Chipping Away, and talking about that exact strategy. If you see the wall, how do you look at ways of swinging over it, tunneling under it, going around it, going through a door, parachuting in, gliders, and all those kind of different out of the box type thinking in terms of reporting a story. But then there's just the simple method of just the other side a chance to see on this side of what it's like on this side. Maybe they'll take the wall down themselves. And that's really been my strategy all through this, is to show the people in the FBI the abuses by a very small number of people. And that started 500 days ago. And then a few people came forward, still some with pseudonyms, but then some other really super brave people. I mean, look at the difference now between, Thomas Paine, as far as that first article that came out, to how prolific he is now and just what a dominant force he is. Look at Robin Gritz. If we had a couple more people like that, and I'm just always working at trying to bring people like that forward, and then someone like Crowdsource the Truth or One American Network or whatever, Fox picks those stories up and really runs with them. Bill Binney would be another person that I think would be excellent for that. And that's been my strategy all along with everyone. And if other people on that side of the wall see the opportunities of an open society where everyone actually can not name call and call the other person Walmart people or whatever, a derogatory term, and feel like they need to surveil them and take their land away and have all these machinations with surveillance, but rather just look over here. It's really not that bad. I can tell you that, having been to Berlin many times, was the feeling on the other side, was that these people were somehow, the West was depraved and all these things, which were really not. There we were at Rayburn waiting for the memo, and there was the Truth Train. So I thought maybe I'll pick up the Truth Train as my new logo. But anyway, this USRA is the name of the company, where they were kind of giving away this data to different university professors overseas. They'd bring them here, get them set up in a business, get them an SBA loan. We talked about Conceris, the company that was really specializing in all forms of giving these folks coming in from other countries, these SBA loans, GSA loans, DHS loans for, you guessed it, surveillance, and then Navy loans, etc. And I'm very sure that the Awans are very much a part of this kind of surveillance infrastructure. And I just think that the reason why there's so much protection of the Awans, and there's so much resistance, and there's such a massive amount of legal expertise being leveled against me, is because they absolutely think that this is the way to go. This tremendous amount of surveillance, satellites, and not only just your phone calls, but what I'm always talked about is this NGA thing, which is the geolocation piece of not only you, but I mean all your family, everything, figuring out your social graph and so forth. This massive concentration on surveillance. And then there is this, I wanted to go down here to Lidos here. A lot of times I'll do anagrams to see, well, what was the purpose of naming it Lidos, and 40,000 people. I mean, that's all classified. It just doesn't seem like the U.S. government should be spending enough money on a secret budget for 40,000 people. Now, this may be a little bit conspiratorial. Well, first I do a swizzle quickly and I see soiled. So I say, okay, well, I don't think it means that other kind of soiled. Maybe it means that this kind of geographic surveillance is that Landsat. This is Molly McCulley, Resources for the Future. This is that Landsat. They're based in mainly the soil, 3/4 of the Earth being ocean. Let's split this off, this kind of Navy research off into the soiled and we'll go there. Now, just through rumor, I've been told that Antarctica, because relatively uninhabited, you can pretty much do whatever you want in terms of Navy research down there, in terms of the national laboratories and so forth. And you can really, you can do nuclear reactors, you can do colliders and so forth like we have in CERN, only you can do them on a much more massive scale. So it becomes really a great test bed, right? But it has this kind of test bed for this world over here, unfortunately, this very draconian world of kind of this monomaniacal focus on elites, and then the people of the inhabitants actually being a detraction. Penguins, are preferable here. We can do whatever we want. We can have whatever supercomputers we want working on whatever perfect genetic formula for us. This kind of super race idea, and it really is kind of left over from this Nazism. And I can only say this, that it is still very pervasive in Washington, D.C. This whole idea of kind of this, and I hate to say Masonic as kind of combined with the Nazi thinking. The Masonic thinking was, a lot of little landowners along the Potomac would be bad in terms of collecting tolls. We need manors. We need big manors, and that's why George Washington owned, the whole right angle of the Potomac. We need to have the first agency of the government would be the Coast Guard, which would be the Bureau of Revenue or something like that. Revenue Marine. It was the Revenue Marine, and this use of Landsat imagery to say, hey, how can we make these whole bricks? They look at all land as basically individual parcels like this as somehow imperfect, and that we need to make this the perfect purple brick. All these individual landowners is somehow a flaw. We need to somehow figure out how to consolidate all these things. So let's target people one at a time. I am not kidding. This is the thinking of this kind of CIA, FBI, intelligentsia, permanent government thinking. You have to come to Washington to believe it. But it is true. So things like these small reactors, we're gonna test those, and we're gonna test these rockets, and we're gonna be able to go to space if the Earth is ever uninhabitable. Things that you would think are conspiracy theory are actually very much a part of this power elites thinking. And I only can show the investments, and I just point to the investments and the monuments all around Washington to say how true this is, how much money is being devoted to this kind of elitist thinking. So that's the one thing that I see in the logo. And again, top secret clearance, 40,000 people. When did Congress ever debate LIDOS, right? We have no idea what they're doing. Some people say a super collider 3 times the size of CERN in Switzerland. I'm inclined to believe that. I would do that. I mean, I think that's a good idea, but I think it's also a good idea to publicize it. Just hey, let's just publicize it. Why a secret CIA program for all these people who have these kind of ex-Nazi kind of combined with Masonic thinking about we're the ones who are the arbiters of right and wrong and what's true and straight and correct.